Welcome back, or should I welcome myself back? Now, it's been a while since I've consistently recorded content on the Palm Beach Chess page, but COVID can put a damper on a lot of things, especially when you go from being a happy classroom teacher to a fully 100% digital teacher with 150 students, 3 assignments a week, and having to record a lot of videos and content. It can be exhausting, but thankfully, it's summertime, and all of my summer plans have been canceled. This now frees me up for more content, and you can definitely expect to see more interesting things. So keep an eye on the Palm Beach Chess page and our projects, because good stuff coming to you in Chessable and otherwise. And speaking of Chessable, I wanted to show a game today that I played with a roughly 2350 rated player in Lee Chess, and this stems off of my course on Chessable, Master of the French Defense. This particular game comes from a line that I had just updated in the course. And I think this is one of the main features of Chessable's opening books versus standard printed opening books. You have to wait for a second edition to come out for an author to right a wrong. With Chessable, man, with authors like myself that jump on things immediately, we can fix it. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's dive right into this game. And we have ourselves a French Defense Advanced variation. And in the main course, like in multiple courses that I'm involved in, we like to give two options. And two options for multiple reasons. One, on a personal level, I don't like to open up a book and go, all right, 7 chapters I like, the line that he recommended. The other 3, I wish he would have done something more critical. Now I'm going to have to go find another book or do it myself. I like providing two options because hopefully I'm hitting on those players that like some flexibility, like to hide their opening repertoire, or, you have an aggressive response and a more solid response based off your tournament situation. I think it's important to have that flexibility, and I like to have it with my own text. So in the main course, we recommended both Knight E7 and Queen B6. Both of them center around the idea of getting rid of the French bishop. Queen B6 with the idea of Bishop D7 and Bishop B5 at some point, and Knight E7 with the idea typically of the knight traveling to C6, the other knight stays at home for B6 and Bishop A6, where this knight is assisting by holding down the A6 square. And of course, this is a really simplified version of the idea, but most of the time, plans in chess work in that way, where the French bishop is bad, so we get rid of him. And we typically have the better bishop, and we have a better endgame if we play it the right way. So it's just simple. Well, let's continue. Let's see where the problem was in our analysis. Knight F3, Knight EC6, and we hit on a common move. See, in the database, when you are taking a look at this position, which it was brought to my attention first by looking at the games of famous grandmaster and French player extraordinaire Georg Meyer. And if you're a French player and you're not looking at this man's games, he's on the cutting edge. You need to be following his games, especially on chess.com. So after Knight EC6, he in a game after A3 had played A5. But we're going to get to that. Now, when I look in the database here, Bishop D3 is by and large the first move, most popular. Then A3, Bishop E2, Bishop E3, and on down the list. So Bishop D3 is where we spent our most time, as it was most natural. And when we played a lot of games, me and the people who work on this, we found Bishop D3 most frequently. So after A3, we're like, okay, well, you just go A5, because we can't be trying to rush things. If we go B6, he goes B4, we run into the deep doo-doo very quickly with this, and you just can't have it. So, and in fact, Meyer played a game recently at a high level, which did not turn out well for black, stemming from A5. And we found a line, and this is that cloud learning from Chessable. We have roughly 2,000 people who have been purchased or possess the Master of the French Defense course on Chessable, and one person dived very deeply into this position and found some interesting ideas. You start with A4, which is a rare sideline. You slow things down for black, and then you turn your attentions to a mass kingside attack with an idea of H4, Rook H3, Rook G3, and we could find no feasible solution for black. And by that I mean the evaluation was something akin to 7/10 of a pawn for black in depth 30 with the best variations we could muster, best ideas. Black was just in a ball. So we feel that this move A5 here is defunct. So we had to dive deep and find something new, and we recommended a French move that's seen in the pure advanced variation with the early knight c6, a3, and then c4. So what are the differences here? Well, we have the extra knight moves, but it's a closed position, and in closed positions, those extra tempi don't matter too much. And the engine didn't frown on these lines, even though we've moved the knights a few times. So let's go a little deeper and see what happened here. The opponent in the game played bishop e3. In the main text, we covered knight bd2, which we felt should be the main line as it's most flexible, covering the b3 square, looking for that b3 counterplay. And the main move in the database was g3 for white, which knight bd2 and g3 are going to go hand in hand. We also looked at bishop e2 and h4. So my opponent played a move that we did not cover, which is another reason why I wanted to make this quick video, bishop e3. And I felt that this move didn't have the most accuracy in it. It had not been played before, novelty, but the bishop doesn't really belong in the square, and we have more active moves that could go along with the position in the meantime. Because when the center is locked, you must play on the wings. And it's difficult to see how white is going to choose here. I mean, is he playing for an f5 break, or is he playing for the b3 break? And b3 seems easier to accomplish. Whereas black, he's typically going to castle queenside and then break on the king side. And how we break is important. This next move, knight a5, I am looking and eyeing that b3 square. And this was pretty much the standard move after c4 when going through these variations in the main text. After knight bd2, here I had a slight inaccuracy, but keep in mind this is a 3-minute game. Queen c7 versus bishop d7. What's more accurate and why? Queen c7 is a bit more accurate, mostly because if b3 takes with check. We have prevented this b3 break by the subtle change in move order, and all we have to do is block that to prevent that rook c1 nonsense. Whereas the line can follow up with queen takes a3. So coming back, after knight bd2, I in the game played bishop d7, and it didn't matter much because my opponent didn't play b3 immediately. He goes for bishop e2 and knight bc6. And here already, white is fully developed, but what's the plan going to be? Are you going for knight e1? Are you going for b3? These are really only the two plans. And the more you delay it, the more you give black time to consolidate. Because keep in mind, I've moved my knights multiple times, and I haven't justified them quite yet. Queen c1. So, bishop e7, I'm still staying flexible on which side I want to go to. Bishop d1. And this was a knee-jerk reaction move because I remembered in one of the lines, h6 was required before castling queenside because knight g5 can be a bit annoying. So here, I just throw in h6 just for good measure. His bishop's relocated, but it's not doing much good because my king's not going over there. I'll go long. And already the engine is starting to bounce to equality, or it likes black by just a smidge. And since the counterplay hasn't started with the f-pawn, white's kind of pot committed to play for b3, but I'm ideally set up on the queen side to deal with any nonsense. And when I wrote the chapters on the winnower, I began to feel more and more comfortable behind this closed pawn structure with the long castled king, because it's actually surprisingly resilient. After rook b1, I turned my attentions to the rook supporting the coming attack. Knight e1, and still wasting a little bit of time here. And even strong players, when they haven't seen a position before, they can get confused. And I think that's the merits of this interesting c4 line. f5, natural. So he tries to get his counterplay going, and the engine likes the I'm just going to focus on my attack, go for it, g5, f4, etc. But I like the idea of I'm cramped. Let me go ahead and trade a set and get the other knight on a5, where it's eyeing this juicy c4 post. And it kind of could be a bone in the throat at some point. Bishop a2. So my attack is going, and white's is really sputtering. Knight d3. His knight has some ideas to go to multiple squares, and I don't want his bishop getting to d4. So in the event of knight c5, bishop takes c5, d takes c5, f4, he's got bishop d4, and that's such a great square for the b. And I think this is one of the main detriments of an early bishop e3, is later on when black's getting standard counterplay, I'm going to hit you with f4, and you're losing a tempi. So once the bishop moves, I prevent the knight from going to the most natural square and blunt the rook on b1. f3, he's trying to slow down my attack, but I'm not as concerned on this side of the board yet because he's got three guys watching the f-pawn, and I feel like my counterplay, ironically, is going to be on the queen side. I go knight c4, I'm looking at the a-pawn, and I wanted to keep bothering the a-pawn, so I play a5. A bit of a risky move, but it worked out in the main game. My opponent saw a ghost and played knight a6. I feel like knight c2 is going to be more accurate, where I planned bishop a4, and this was just where my mind stopped in calculation, because I'm like, surely his back's going to get broken here. I've got everything I need. With the idea on bishop takes c4, d takes c4, and the bishops are good. His bishop is a terrible bad bishop on d2. I still have my counterplay if I need it on the king side. He's completely shut down on the queen side. And the engine eval makes sense of 2 in the favor of black. So coming back to the main game here, knight a6. And how about we trap the pony? Queen a7. Simple and effective. And at this point, it's about a minute 44 for me, minute 22 to my opponent. And normally I would end the game here, but I think it's kind of instructive from a middle game standpoint on, you're winning here. What is the best way to go about trying to win this position? And when you're up material, the rule of thumb is typically simplify the win, trade down. If you're down material, you want to keep complications, especially in a fast time control game. You want to try to play the clock, hoping for mistakes to get back in. So I play king c7. Main idea being, I'm not so diving at the idea to crack open the king side with h5, g4, sack a pawn, and I don't want to mess. I want to casually improve my position and eliminate counterplay from my opponent. He gets the open file. It's like, okay, I moved the king though, so I could contest the open file. I like this move by white because it goes, well, I'm going to be coming in here. So do you want to get afraid? And I think a lot of players would look at this position and be like, ooh, I don't want to allow this. And they end up making a move like bringing the rook back to stop it, which really it defeats the purpose of your last few moves, and white's going to double, and you could get in trouble from a winning position. Better is to just trade And notice, I've gotten a file, he's had to waste time, and I'm going to keep pushing forward to try to get some trades here to simplify the win. I allow his queen in, but simple calculation goes, all right, you take my bishop, I'm still safe. How about I just threaten your rook? And now, very simply, bishop d8. Everything's defended. The king is very difficult to get to on c7, and I'm just losing a pawn. In return, I have safety. His queen is a little bit off sides, and I'm able to come in and improve the position. Queen c2, bothering the b, threaten mate, and here we have a little stutter step. I've got 55 seconds, he's got about 34. I want to keep my time edge, so I'm just going to repeat a move and then make a slight difference just to see if he's going to do anything different. He decides to trade this go around and then goes for d5. Now, I feel like the most accurate move to shut down all counterplay is the move that I played, queen e2. I'm threatening mate, so any sort of capture on e6 or check is short-lived with no follow-up. So my opponent goes for anything to stay alive to try to play for a flag, h4, and I force the trade of ladies. And I felt this was interesting how it worked out because both of us were kind of playing for a flag. And it's neat with two bishops because you can kind of shut down the counterplay, and I sit my bishops in a way to where there aren't really many options here. And after bishop e1, king d4, I played a number of moves in the game, but of course when both players are scrambling for flags, these types of simple solutions like bishop f2 mate can be missed. So hopefully you enjoyed this little overview of, in my opinion, why everybody should be checking out Chessable courses. Because you can comment when you buy a Chessable book, and if the author's like myself, I get back to 99% of the comments or address the issue and the comment goes away. Either way, I feel like I get to pretty much everybody. And it's just better than the standard text books. I love the improvements. I love working on the Chessable books. And you can expect to see more improvements in the future and a brand new course coming to you soon.